Hello, today I'm going to show you how to crochet this simple cool hat. It's very easy to crochet. Even a beginner can do it. Plus you can use any yarn. You can crochet this hat in any size and any height. It can be a men's hat, a women's hat, or a child's hat. You can make it without a brim or with a brim. The hat is very stretchy and looks great. My hat's height is about 28.5 centimeters. I crocheted the hat with a small brim, but as I already said, you can crochet the hat to any height. You cast on stitches across like this, and you can cast on any number of stitches. Then we work in this direction, and so you can make any number of rows. At the end we seam the hat. The seam looks like this. At the top the seam is invisible, but at the bottom it's visible. This is because my hat has a folded brim. When we fold the brim up, the seam is not visible anywhere. Look, first the seam is on one side, then on the reverse. And on the right side, the seam is not visible at all. So, as I said before, this hat is very simple. Even a beginner can make it. You can use any yarn. Take the one you like. I'll be crocheting with this yarn. It has about 93 meters and 50 grams. I'm using a size 5 mm hook because the stitch pattern used needs to be worked very loosely. Otherwise the fabric will pucker. Use a hook that is several sizes larger than recommended for your yarn. We cast on stitches. This will be the height of the hat. The more stitches you cast on, the taller the hat will be. I'm casting on 50 stitches. I'm finishing casting on 50 stitches. I have a starting chain like this. The starting chain will be longer than the final height of the hat. This is because the stitch pattern will pull the fabric in. I make a turning chain. We'll be crocheting into each chain of the starting chain. The first row is not very convenient to crochet. We'll crochet slip stitches until the end of the starting chain. I have a few stitches left to work. I'm working the last slip stitch in this row. I'll weave in this yarn tail as I work the next row. I make one turning chain and turn the work to the other side. Look, there's a V-stitch on top here. In this row and in all subsequent rows, I'll be crocheting only into this part of the stitch. So I've made one turning chain. I start working from this stitch. And now we work slip stitches like this. As you can see, because I'm using a larger hook size, it allows me to work loosely. And as a result, the fabric turns out beautiful and even. If you use a smaller hook, you might accidentally pull the fabric too tight. Work to the end of the row, work the very last stitch too. Don't forget about it. To avoid forgetting to work all the stitches, you can recount them each time. I make a turning chain, turn the work to the other side, and I work this row exactly the same as the previous one. And then all rows are worked in the same way. You work a row of slip stitches, make a turning chain, and then the same thing again. I've worked a few rows. From now on, I'll be working back and forth, up and up. Work as many rows as you need. Work into every stitch from the beginning to the end of the row. Then make a turning chain, turn your work to the other side, and work another row. Repeat this until you've crocheted a piece of the desired length. Don't forget to work all the stitches in the row, both the first and the last. This stitch at the end can be hidden and easy to miss. It must be worked. Otherwise, the fabric will slant. You can recount the stitches. I've worked about 88 or 89 rows. You should work the number of rows you need. Here I have about 37 centimeters. And the height here is about 29 to 30 centimeters. The next step is to choose the right side. You can choose either side as the right side, but you need to position the fabric like this. I'll show you up close. This will look prettier. Now I'm going to shape the crown of the hat. The crown is here and it needs to be cinched. You can sew it and cinch it, but in that case a hole might remain, which is not very good. I'm going to use this method. I take a hook like this. With it, I'll pick up stitches along the edge and then I'll cinch them. I'll be picking up stitches along this edge. Look how I do it. I'm picking up stitches along the entire width. That's why I took another hook. I couldn't have picked up the stitches with the first one. Picking up the stitches, there will be a lot of them. Make sure the stitches don't fall off the hook. I'm picking up the last stitches. Now we do this. We grab the yarn with the hook and pull it through all the stitches on the hook. And now we pull the hook. So I'm going to cinch it. The principal is next. I'll pull it tight here and then I'll use the same yarn to make the seam. I left with a rather short yarn tail, so I won't be cutting it. But you should leave a yarn tail about 3 times the length of the seam. Pull the yarn through. Cinch it tightly. And secure the yarn. I'll pull it even tighter. And the hole is gone now. I'm turning the hat to the wrong side, and I'll be seaming the hat on the wrong side. But first I need to figure out exactly how to seam it. Let's look at the right side again. I need to seam it so that the seam is not visible on the right side. On the right side there's a sort of cable here, and next to it a stitch like this. They should be on the right side, so I'll be seaming into these stitches here. On the other side there's a V-stitch, and next to it a loop. And that's what we'll be working into. And we'll be seaming into this loop. This loop is here. I'll go up to the first stitch from which I'll start seaming. I seam it like this, so that the pattern matches up perfectly. I'll show you in more detail. At the same time, the seam needs to be pulled tight. I'm making the seam like this. I'm continuing to seam. If you're making the hat without a brim, you seam it like this all the way to the end. If you want to make a folded brim, you need to move the seam to the other side. Otherwise, the seam will be visible. Make the seam in the usual way up to the point where the brim will start. And then I'll be seaming on the right side. To make the seam invisible again, you need to figure out how to seam it. Here we'll be seaming into the same loops as before. On this side, I'll be seaming like this. This V-stitch should remain on the right side. Therefore, I'll be seaming into this loop. The principle of seaming remains the same. But now we are sewing on the right side. We seam to the end. I finished seaming, and the seam looks like this. When we fold up the brim, the seam immediately becomes invisible on the right side. Now I'm fastening off the yarn. I do it like this. I weave in the yarn tail. The hat is ready. Thank you for crocheting with me. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new videos. Bye.